In order to make creating little adventure games in Unreal as easy as possible, I'd like to try and keep a lot of the action right here in level view. To do that, we have a lot of level sequences, and we use control rigs in those level sequences to set our characters up in various poses that suit the level and give them little animations that suit the context. This works great, but control rigs are not good at complicated animations. For example, if you were going to try and build a walk cycle, you wouldn't want to do that using a control rig. You'd want to do that in Blender or something, someplace that has a full set of animation tools. The good news is we don't have to create that kind of animation here in Unreal using our control rigs. We can just use an existing animation and modify it. So that's what I'm going to show you how to do now. Here is another animation. Just pop that open. We want this character to walk through these doors. This is technically the main character, but if we click on them, you can see they're actually a character proxy. You might be wondering why that is. So you can put your main character into level sequences. It works great, but a level sequence will always teleport all of the actors involved back to where they started. Always. You cannot change that behavior. It's bizarre, but that's how it is. This means that it works great if your character isn't going anywhere. If you just need a character to, take a couple of swings at somebody and then step back to where they started or whatever, that's fine. You can use your character directly. But if you want your character to, say, walk across a room or walk through a gap, you're going to need a character proxy, and then when that character proxy is destroyed, you're going to need to move the avatar to where that character proxy was destroyed. I've got a system for doing that. It's not that complicated, but I'll be sharing all of that stuff in a big package later. So for now, I'm just going to show you the animation half. Obviously, we're going to add that character proxy to the sequencer. There they are. Now, we don't want to try and animate them walking from nothing. So instead, we're going to go ahead and add in a walk animation. There it is. If we take a look, this walk animation starts with a wide stance. We probably don't want to start that as our starting point. We generally want a more neutral stance so that the player won't notice when the animation starts, because this kicks in pretty quick. There's no fading. There's no natural fading when this animation starts. So we're going to go ahead and use a mid stance as our starting position, and then we're just going to go ahead and extend this walk cycle for as long as we think we're going to need it. That should do. Then we can right-click on the character proxy and say Bake to Control Rig. This. Always reduce keys. Always, always, always. There we go. So now we have the animation as a control rig animation. Now, in order for this to happen, you do need a control rig that is capable of doing those sorts of animations, and that means you need a control rig with a backwards solve setup. This is what backwards solve is for. Backwards solve is how the system sets up these animations for you. If you've ever seen my 30-second control rig setup, I show you this part there. This is the exact same, except for down here we set the bones to the controls, and up here we set the controls to the bones. It's that easy. This means that it just goes through the animation and it moves the controls to where the bones are over and over and over and over and over, and that gets us our setup. We can then modify it as we see fit. In this case, there's a number of things that we're going to need to modify, most notably the root. Now, you could try and modify all of these keys manually, but in general, for things like the root, the spine, the neck, and the head, I'll just go ahead and delete everything except for the very first one, because that's the stuff that I'm probably going to have to customize, and I don't feel like customizing it every single frame, so I'll just give it a go and then see how we can do it. Now we're going to click over here. This will give us a view from 3 different sides, and we can just take a peek here and see what we're doing. I've added this block down below so that we can see where the feet should go, and I've taken away the walls. The walls do exist in play mode, but I don't want to have them in the way of my view here. So this just helps us to try and figure out what we're seeing and how we're doing things. The basic setup is that we want the feet to feel realistic. So when we move the root around, what we're doing primarily is sticking our feet. This is the most basic possible way to do this, right? So if we take a look, you can see how the feet are just kind of, going nowhere. So we'll just grab something like this, And if we take a look, you can see that the right foot is the one that's coming back there. We don't actually want that right foot to go back that far because we want that to be like a gripping foot. So we'll do this. See? Also, I noticed that we're floating just a little bit in this first frame, so we'll just move that down a touch. And then, of course, the left foot comes down. We'll go ahead and set that up. And then, and then we'll have that, see that slide back? We don't want that to actually slide, though, so we'll just move this until the foot is stuck in the same place. And then continue that process. Like that. And then, of course, our right foot's coming out. So let's go ahead and add a little bit of tilt to this. When people walk through doors like this, they very rarely walk through ramrod straight. Often what they'll do is they'll rotate a little bit. They'll rotate back before they go through, and they'll lead with their legs. So you do this. And then when that happens, they're going to start to rotate forward to push their way through like this. But of course, we want to make sure to keep our feet in a good position. So well, that's not too bad. Right there, that's not great. So we're going to go ahead and modify that one pose. Just bring it down a touch and move it back a touch. There we are. Yeah, that gives us that nice hesitation as you step through the door. And of course, when we get here, you can see that we've got feet down in the ground and all sorts of stuff like that. So we'll just move that. And yeah, there we go. And we have one more thing we want to do. We want to go to this pass point, because this pass point is a nice neutral pose for us to end on. So we can just stop right here. Except for we actually need to stop over here so the feet line up. Not perfect. Oh, darn it. Come on. Just trying to find a good spot to stop. That'll do. So when we do that, we're going to know that that's our stop point. So we'll just grab this red bit and drag it back. There we go. That's stopped. Now obviously we could go to great effort to try and turn this back into a neutral pose, to slow the character down, to spin them, to do whatever we want to do, right? But in this case, just for the demonstration purposes, I think this is probably enough. Now if we were to look at this character from behind, like we will be, you can see how it doesn't really feel super great, and I think they actually clip through one of the doors there. See that? So what we're going to do is we are going to modify it so that they don't clip that door. That's easy enough to do. We just grab the key that makes it look like they're clipping through right there. See that? And we'll have them move a little bit to the side using that root bone again. And maybe tilt them just a touch, like this. And then here, we'll again move them just off to the side a little bit. There we are. And now we can sell that by using the rest of these bones we cleared up, the neck, the head, the spine, and so on. And we can just rotate them so that they look like we're paying attention to that door so that we're not going to hit it. See? And then here, we can actually spin all of those back so that they feel a little bit more natural. And there we are. We have the final version. Final because it's just a tutorial. I don't want to spend all day doing it. Now, if we wanted to see how that looks in the game, we're going to need to do a little bit of trickery in terms of opening that level sequence and making sure that this character proxy is a spawnable. That means that it won't exist unless it's being played. See? It's gone. That's super handy because it means that we can use the existence of that avatar to turn off our input, to hide our main character, and then to teleport them when it gets destroyed. This is the one I did before, going the other way. And I put in a little yellow, white arrow to it's a debug arrow to show you what happened. And then this is the one we just created. Easy as pie. So that's how you do it. Hope you enjoyed this little tutorial.